Hello, this is Tom Winterstein. I wanted to do this futures grid for you because I've been getting a lot of questions from traders just like yourself. I'm going to take a look at the ES, the NQ, and YM. We're going to take a look at no lower than the daily. And these charts are not really going to be beneficial for intraday type trades unless we hit one of the daily boundaries or edges or confluence areas. But this is going to be something handy to pull out if we start getting some increased volatility, 3, 4, 5% swings up or down in a day. This will have some levels that we can pull out and use for potential, targets, points of resistance, confluence, and whatnot. I'm not going to step through the whole chart because I'm going to provide this grid thinkorswim link for you. But basically, we can see massive, bull trend here, and the pullback longs have been successful. So, if from a daily perspective, if you're already long, then you've got some targets, to the upside. If you happen to be short here, there's some targets down to below. But of interest, of what I wanted to point out, if you look at historically what price did, price kind of meandered around here. Last year. And as it made its way up, through this, it was just a slow grind. And, unless you were long and, trailing it tightly, it is hard, at least for me, to justify getting long just because at this point, these were all-time highs. And when price got up here, it just sort of rolled over. It's been about a week or so. Had a couple of down days, but then the momentum just really picked up. So this area over here to the left where prices kind of was grinding up, this absolutely flew down through there. And you may recall that was, late February into March where we had that significant volatility, made some technical moves down here on a weekly basis, and it's been nothing but bulls ever since. So we've got a couple of fibs here, and we've got some targets. Of note up above is a gap fill. There was a gap here right when it started to roll over. So, and I'm not really trying to guess which way this is going to go, but if and when volatility picks up, could be news related, could be, trade wars, could be coronavirus, could be anything. I've got some levels identified for here, that I feel pretty comfortable with. As we take a look over and move over to NQ, a little bit different story here because price has exceeded its previous all-time high, whereas NQ, ES and YM, have not. But very similarly, the pullback longs have been extremely, beneficial on this chart. But we have an ascending wedge here. This is a weekly trend that goes back quite a while. It tested it once, breached it, but closed below. A little bit of a, I've got some bear fibs here, in case this wedge were to hold. But again, if we start getting some, high volatility moves, here's some levels that I like, from a daily standpoint. Of interest to note, this gap has already been filled on NQ, but on ES and YM, it has not. Lastly, we'll take a look at YM. And this monthly segment right here was previously all-time highs, and you can see it just kind of bounced off of here, held, dropped, came up, held, dropped, came up, breached, broke above, got the retest, and shot up. But when it came back down, it just shot right down through with very little respect at all. But once it made its way back up, it didn't hold to the tick, but it ended up holding on the higher time frame. So we're kind of back down, and we've been messing around with this change control zone. And so what I've done is just identified, some levels. So if you're a level-to-level trader, these levels happen to line up, with corresponding fibs. If you've been long for a while or are looking for pullback longs, these would be some targets. Up here, there is of interest to note a gap fill. Up here, the higher time frame bear fib, the 78's already been breached, so that's not really in play, at least from my standpoint. So when we kind of take in, and you're going to have the thinkorswim link, so you can look at this yourself. So from an intraday standpoint, again, price is just kind of chilling, through here. Some people think we're sort of in a range. I just think we're getting some, very technically correct, cycles. And if we start getting some extreme moves, like I said, 3, 4, 5%, limit up, limit down, these might be some potential levels to keep in mind. So that's it. If you have any questions, feel free to send me a message and we'll see if we can cover this for you. Thanks.